The meeting is being recorded. Thank you, Linda, for serving as a Zoom host, and Dale for being the timer today. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. This is a great working session, right? To spend the lunch hour learning. It's delightful to see everyone today, and we are so glad to have the training session this Friday. This will be worth our time. I'm so sure. I've met with Barb, our presenter for today, and this will be a great session. Barb McIntyre has been a Toastmaster for 10 years. She has served in all club officer roles except the VP of Public Relations. She was honored with the President of the Year Toastmaster Award for the year 2017-2018. Perhaps her proudest moment, not so much for the award, but for the recognition of her efforts. One of the reasons she is so passionate was because of the 75-year-old club that she was in was at risk of closing. Her efforts helped the club survive, and not just that, they've been going strong through the pandemic. She sees this as evidence that just one person's passion can ignite a fire for others. According to the Pathways program, her leadership style is coaching and collaboration. With that in mind, she would like this training session to be a collaboration. In her own words, we have such a wealth of knowledge in Toastmasters. It would be a shame not to tap into that vein of gold. We'd like to request everyone to share your wealth, the knowledge you have gained with fellow Toastmasters today. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster Barb McIntyre to the virtual stage. Barb?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Nirmala. And thank you so much for hosting this today, for being you and Linda being the puppet hands behind all of this happening. We really appreciate it so that we can all be here and share this time and glean any knowledge that we have from one another. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking this hour out of your Friday to come and do the training. And my wish is that it's not just so that we can get the check on the DCP report, but that you really actually leave this hour with more resources than you had when you came in, and that you maybe get a little bit pumped up and excited about your role and what you can do for your club in the next 6 months. And of course, anytime we're doing that, we're also growing ourselves. Anytime we deepen into our knowledge around a role and bring it to our club, we're deepening in our own knowledge of our own innate abilities. So I see it as a win-win and really want to pump you up today to be able to do that. First of all, I'd like for you to put in the chat if this is your first time as secretary and if you started in December. I want to kind of have a sense if we have someone who's really just brand new to the role. And then also others of you, if you will, maybe throw in the chat, where do you go? What's your number one resource? Was it a packet you were given by the previous secretary? Was it something that you heard from somebody else and you're digging it out yourself? Where maybe there's another Toastmasters International, maybe there's the district site. So where do you go? What do you find is your number one most valuable resource while you're fulfilling this job today? Again, my goal is that in this training, there will be something there for the brand new people, which I see we have somebody very first time, we have a couple. My goal is that there's something there for you, but the person who's done it for years and thinks that there's nothing new to learn, I hope you are surprised today and you walk away with just a trick or a tip that you'll immediately go back and use with your club. So I want you to know at the end of this what the role is specifically. I want you to feel that you are absolutely qualified and confident in filling that role. And I want you to realize that at your fingertips, just the click of a mouse, is practically every resource that you will need. Perhaps in the past, absolutely in the past, my number one resource was not Toastmasters International. Nirmala, can you call out maybe just a few of the responses that people put in for their number one resource?
VPE is a wealth of knowledge. They go to Toastmasters International, the club president.
Toastmasters International.
Toastmasters International, the club vice president of education, the president. Linda and the other leaders have been generous. The handbook. Those are a few.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to hear a couple people mention Toastmasters International, because as I said, that didn't used to be my go-to, but I think between the pandemic and Pathways, Toastmasters put a lot of time, effort, money into that site. And now it is such a valuable resource, and it has turned out to be my number one resource. So we're going to mine that resource a lot today. And I'm going to, share my screen. And when you open it up, here's the home page. Perhaps oftentimes regular members especially will go to Pathways, but today we're going to lean in on Leadership Central, and then oftentimes we'll go to Club Central to do our tasks. But today we're going to start with the club officer tools, because there's a wealth of knowledge here that I really encourage you all to use. And we're going to start with the club officer tutorials. Now, you may want to go back later and watch the other tutorials just to see how your particular board position dovetails with the other positions. But today, we're going to watch the presentation for secretary.
Congratulations! You've been selected by your fellow club members to be the secretary of your club. That means that when it comes to keeping your club organized and on track, your fellow club members think you are the best person for the job. You may be wondering how you're going to keep your club organized and on track. That's just what you should be thinking about right now. Well, don't worry. This session breaks down your responsibilities into specific, manageable duties and suggests resources to help you along your way. Let's get started. Your responsibilities as secretary can be divided into 3 categories: meeting quality, club success, and member relations. Select one of the categories to learn more about it. Meeting quality. As secretary, you have one main duty related to meeting quality: to record meeting minutes. This means recording the club name, type of meeting, meeting location, names of meeting attendees, name of the presiding officer, and information regarding business conducted, committees, and so on. Essentially, it is your job to record all pertinent information in an organized and easy-to-understand fashion.
And as secretary, you may be having the inclination to jot down notes about everything. I think today you'll be able to just watch, take it in. There'll be a couple resources sent out afterwards, and a lot of what we're going to show will bring you right back to these resources. So you can probably just relax and watch today.
Club success. The second category of responsibility is club success. Your club success duties include serving as the authority on Toastmasters International Policy and Protocol, managing club files and records, and reporting new officers to World Headquarters.
That may sound daunting, but we'll have the resources at the end of this hour for you to feel confident in this.
Let's start with your policy and protocol duties. When it comes to matters of policy and protocol, you are your club's expert. You ensure your club is following Toastmasters policies and protocol, club bylaws, procedures, and standing rules. But don't worry, you aren't expected to memorize Toastmasters policies and protocol. Just familiarize yourself with them and know where to find answers.
So remember that you are the club's expert in all of these things, which are exceedingly important. But we're going to show you where these resources are, and hopefully I'm going to ask you to go and peruse the resources after you've been shown, so that you have just a familiarity with where things are. And when questions come up, you'll know exactly where to go.
The second main aspect of your club success duties is managing and maintaining club records. Club records include the club constitution and the standard bylaws for clubs of Toastmasters International. Any amendments to those bylaws, meeting minutes, applications, resolutions, and correspondence. It is up to you to keep these records well organized so they are easily accessible. The third piece of your club success duties as secretary is to report new officers to World Headquarters. You are responsible for ensuring that World Headquarters has up-to-date contact information for incoming officers so that all official communications reach your club.
And we'll show you where you do that.
Member relations. The third category of your duties as a club officer involves your responsibility to club members. As a club officer, you support the success of your club by building relationships with club members and guests. Take the time to discover members' motivations for joining and their goals, both personal and professional. When they accomplish their goals, celebrate with them. Express your pride in their dedication and perseverance. Remember, strong, healthy relationships with club members result in a strong, healthy club. There you go. You've just completed the club secretary responsibility session. Great job. Remember, you can come back anytime you need a refresher. If you have any questions, email them to clubofficers@toastmasters.org. Now get out there and have a fantastic term.
I love his enthusiasm. So I hope at the end of this hour, you're going to really be raring to get out there and show them what you've got, show them what you've learned. Now, the number one area that they talked about is meeting quality. And the number one task for the secretary, as far as the meeting quality of the club, is note-taking. So there's probably many ways to do it, but I asked for a guest speaker today because he's the secretary of our club, Canyon Park Echoes. And I kind of think, again, as the board being a relay team, and we're handing that baton off every time we're handing our information to a new board member. And you want that handoff to be really clean. You want that to be right in the palm of the hand. And sometimes you're catching it by the tips of your fingers, or sometimes it's a scratch and it's a miss altogether. And unfortunately, for circumstances that completely legitimate, our secretary really didn't get that baton in the hand, and he had to come up with himself a system that would work for him and that would really work for our club. And he's done a fabulous job. So I'd like for him to share a little bit about how he keeps notes and how he files them. So please help me welcome John Mortensen.
Thank you, Barb, for that wonderful introduction. As I was watching the video that you were showing, and it talked about that your club chose you for that role because they thought you were the best person, I thought it was kind of funny because I always thought whoever would be the secretary would be a very organized person, and that is not me. But I luckily work with some people who are very organized. And I kind of took what I saw that they would do for meeting minutes for different meetings that we have at work and try and duplicate it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And before I do, though, I want to point out that our club uses Microsoft Teams as the way where we communicate. And so inside of Teams, I use OneNote to keep our notes. There's other ways you can use OneNote without Teams, and there's going to be instructions that'll be sent out how to do it both ways. And if your club uses Google for things, you can use Google Keep as well. And with that, I am going to share my screen. As I mentioned, our club has a Teams page, and this is where we'll send out our agendas and talk to each other, or if we can't show up for a meeting, we'll communicate to let us know that we're not going to be there. And in Teams, what I do is I go to the apps and locate OneNote. And don't worry about following along on these details. There's detailed instructions that'll show you how to do this. And I opened up Teams, and what I ended up creating was a section for our board meeting minutes. What you can do here is for each board meeting, there's a page that you can click on, and then you can go back as an easy way to find what was talked about at the October meeting or the December meeting. When we set up, every club probably does it a little bit different. For our club, our president sends out the agenda. And when she does that, I go to the email and I open it up and I get the agenda and I just create a copy. I copy it into OneNote. Now, if you're really advanced, you could even create your agenda inside of OneNote, but for our club, we do it that way. And I put it in here. And then once the board meeting starts, I check off who's attending and who's not attending. That way we'll have a roll call of that. And I go through, and when to talk about the different things, I'll make notes in here. And so if the report of the December meeting was approved, I would say approved by a vote of 6-0 or whatever it was, and follow along all those. And then at the end of the meeting, in order to make sure everyone has a copy of the meeting minutes to review before the next meeting, I share it. In order to do that, I go and I open up OneNote in the browser. And I click on share. And once I have that, I can either type the names of the club members and send it out through Microsoft. Although my favorite way is to just copy a link and then go back to that Teams page for our club, where I can then create a new conversation, tag the club. We just call our channel general. And then I would say something like, here are the meeting minutes for the January meeting. And this could also, for clubs that keep meeting minutes for the weekly regular meetings, you could do that as well as for your board meetings. But this is just an example of how we use it in our club. Other clubs do things differently, but just something to consider as a great way to utilize a tool to put all of your meeting minutes in one location in the cloud. That way you can share it easily, have a resource to go back. And with that, thank you very much. And back to you, Barb.
Thank you, John. And again, this was just something that he was able to put together. He didn't think he was very techy, but he was able to put this together with some information from work and from other people. And it turns out to be wildly successful, not only for him being able to take notes during the meetings, have it already in a form that he can just quickly edit, quickly share. We can send in any additions or corrections. Once he's got those done, then they're filed right there. So, there's blessing, curse, one side, the other side. There's been some challenges for us, obviously, meeting virtually like this, but in some ways it's made it much easier for the board members to do their jobs, to close out meetings, to keep notes, to have them filed. So I really encourage you to turn some of these challenges into positives, and that way you bring that attitude to your club and everybody benefits from it. That was your main task under meeting quality. And then under club success was a lot of very daunting sounding things that you are in charge of. And not only, I think, in charge, I think they called you the expert of. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we'll go back to Toastmasters International. And we're still under Leadership Central. and club officer tools. Because I want to show you under the club officer kit is the club leadership handbook. This used to be mailed out every single time you got a new board position, you'd get this. So I can only imagine how many trees we're saving by going to this more virtual world. But now it'll send you to the resource library, but right there is the club leadership handbook in English, and you can view that. And down just a couple pages is valuable information. It's the mission statement, the Toastmasters International, the district, and the club mission, which is really good for you to read and just familiarize yourself that we all know a mission statement is just a nutshell of what is the intention of this business, or in our case, nonprofit. Also, the core values. Everything we do as a board should have behind it the idea that integrity, respect, service, and excellence are the values that we bring forward with anything that we do. The brand promise, and also a Toastmasters promise. Now, I remember when we had paper forms, this was on the application. So every new member had this to read, and we would point this out to them and have them read it so that they really recognized that there was a responsibility that they were signing up for when they signed up to be a member of a club. To attend meetings regularly, to prepare projects to the best of your ability, to prepare for meeting assignments, and to serve as club officer when called upon to do so. So it's nice, maybe these days everything is online and they're just signing that form and sending their electronic payment and perhaps not even reading anything. We've kind of gotten in the habit of not reading everything we're signing. So maybe you as a secretary, bring this to your board, that maybe you lean in on this just a little bit more and make sure that all new members are aware that they, in fact, are signing up and making a promise to the club when they do so. Now, additionally, there's the club leadership roles. And I know that the secretary role is at about page 34. So we're going to look at that. So you have this as a resource. Again, Leadership Central, Club Officer Tools, and this is your description. So if you're ever wobbly, or if you're being asked to do something that you don't really think is your responsibility, you can come back to this book and you can see which board member, according to Toastmasters International, is responsible for that specific task. Every club has its own culture. Every club will make its own decisions, but it's always nice to go back and see in the beginning, what was the intention? And then if it's going to be changed, again, change those things with intention. So that first slide showed you what you should have in your minutes. It's right here if you want to come back and refer to it. Do I have everything in my meeting minutes that I am asked by Toastmasters International to have in there? It's in your club officer handbook. You're responsible for maintaining files. What does that mean? What files and for how long? It's right here, which I found exceedingly comforting, because that sounded like I had no idea. I had no idea what it was I was supposed to be keeping track of or for how long. It's right there. You report new officers to Toastmasters International, and it says right here where you do that in Club Central. We will go over that. And if in my clicking and our doing, if we miss it, be sure and call me on that. You're also base camp manager in Pathways, which may or may not be a comfort level for you. There is a tutorial, and I'll show you where it is. You're not going to be the main person. Obviously, the VP of Education is the big Pumbaa when it comes to okaying levels when club members have reached a certain level. But if they're not available, or if they're requesting your help for some reason, they're overwhelmed, you're the next in line. So be sure to familiarize yourself. There are resources on Toastmasters International, and I'm sure that your vice president of education would be happy to go through and show you the next time they do a level or do a tutorial even before that, just so you're familiar if it arises where you have to do it. And then just a summary of your responsibilities. And at the end, there's a couple possible scenarios that they go through. So very valuable resource. And you find that again under Club Officer Tools, Club Officer Kit, Leadership Handbook. You also have the Distinguished Club Program and the Club Success Plan. It may be that you decide that your, oh, we didn't do a breakout room. We didn't do the breakout room. It may be that you decide your president and your VPE want you as secretary to kind of keep track of this. And these are both really valuable programs, especially if your club is suffering in any way, membership or quality. Be sure that you know where this resource is and bring it to your board. Let them know if they aren't utilizing these resources. You can be the one that actually says, hey, I know where we can get some help on this. I know where we can go. Speech contest rule book, that's VP of Education's main job to know, but this is where the resource is if they don't. And then there's Club Central tutorials. Let's go there. Because many of you may not be comfortable with that Basecamp Manager. So this is, we're not going to watch it all, but we're going to just show you where this resource is. Okay. So that's just so you know, you have a tutorial at your fingertips. And if you ever have a question that isn't being answered that you can't find in Toastmasters International, right down here, you have a chat box. So you can say, I'm looking for this and I'm not able to find it. You can have a chat with Toastmasters International. And there's also a contact us button. You can call them if you prefer that. Additionally, you were asked to be the expert for policy and protocol. What in the world? Governing documents and legal tax compliance are two tabs you're going to want to just peruse. Again, as I said, you're not expected to memorize all of this, but you do need to know where it is. And if you have perused it, then when a question comes up in the club, you will recognize, oh, I think I saw something on that and I know where to go to look for it. We had a rather sticky situation in a club that I was in, and I'd only been a Toastmaster for 6 months, and they had drafted me for president, which I felt totally unprepared for. But really, it's that situation where everybody takes 2 steps back and you're still standing there. So I went ahead and took the role, learned so much. It was very valuable. However, there was a situation that came up and I felt it was my job to kind of on a interpersonal level deal with the situation. It wasn't until later that I found out that in the club constitution for Toastmasters International, there are all kinds of things that are addressed here. Officers, duties of officers, rules of order, legal status, club dues and member fees, what's a member in good standing. But more than that, what I really needed to know was that there's a policies and protocol. every situation that you will probably find in a club, which is a challenge, has already been addressed. And there is a path for you to go down. There are policies and procedures. There are rules that you are bound by. And a member may not like it, but it really takes it out of a personal situation then. It's not you pulling rank, it's specifically what Toastmasters International has as their policies and procedures. So it's on everything: gavel clubs, speech contests, structure, dues and fees. But what I needed to know is where is it? There's one that addressed my specific situation, and it's ethics. Ethics and conduct. So violation reporting, disciplining a member, talks specifically about what situations might arise and how you are to deal with them. So just that you know that this is here, you're not going to memorize all of this. There's no need to. But just for you to know that that is there may save a lot of stress and angst that you might have otherwise had. So those I wanted to show you right off the bat because they sound like the most daunting. And yet, if you just recognize it's all here, it's at the click of a mouse. And if not, just put the question in the chat, and Toastmasters International is there for us, absolutely there for us. The other thing I wanted to show really quickly is legal and tax compliance, especially once we start meeting in person. If we're putting on contests or big to-dos, open houses, whatever, and we're asking for donations for food or various other things, this is what you're going to need, the 501c3 determination letter, to let them know that in fact you are a nonprofit. And then let's go to Club Central. So this is the one that you'll probably use the most. Membership is probably the VP of membership, submitting education awards. VP of education, however, you being a secondary base camp manager may be using this, and go to that tutorial if you have a question as to how to do it. If it turns out that your VPE is gone, this needs to be submitted, go to the tutorial and you'll know how to do it. And then club roster, this is where you're going to go if you need to edit any information on members. You just click the edit button and you can keep their information, their contact information updated, which is very important. Another thing you were tasked with is club officer assignment. So at the end of the year, when the new board comes in, it's going to be up to you as secretary to report those new officers. It's very simple. All you're going to do is click club officer assignment, and then you'll have a drop-down menu from all of your members, and you can input the new board, and Toastmasters International will then be notified. So I think I want to, we're going to have a breakout room after the secretary, and I launched right into Leadership Central. So can we pivot and just maybe do a breakout room now so they can download and share any questions that they have, and then move on to coming back? Can we do a 5-minute breakout room now?
We're all set. You ready to go?
Oh, thank you. Yes, ready to go.
Yep.
So go off into your rooms and just any questions, and come back and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about what you downloaded. So if there was a question that came up in the room that didn't get answered, maybe you can put that in the chat and Nirmala can let me know. We'll see if we can answer it. But it's looked like there were quite a few people that were brand new to the role. So I want to make sure that we have enough education for you to feel absolutely confident going forward. And then my challenge to myself is to find something, leave enough time to find something for those people who have done it again and again, and find them something brand new. But again, if this is your first time, we'll go to Club Central. And in addition to you maintaining that club roster and making sure that it's current, and remembering that at the end of this term, you're going to go into this club officer assignment and let Toastmasters International know the new officers. You can also access there's many ways that you can access the Distinguished Performance Report. But when you go into it through Club Central, you're going to go directly to your club's Distinguished Club Report. And as secretary, you'll probably want to work with the president and the VPE to make sure that your club is on track to reach distinguished, if not select distinguished or president's distinguished. And this will tell you exactly where you're at and where you need to be. Our club needs 2 more members to get to this first level on membership. We're struggling with membership. So at a glance, you'll be able to see what you need to do to support your club. And this is where you can download the club success plan if you and your president decide that that's something you want to look at and do for to help focus the club on what it needs to do to improve. In addition, as secretary, you might want to use this brand portal because it has stationary templates. So if you're doing any communication, you definitely want to stay with the branded, Toastmaster branded materials. We have specific colors, the logo, everything. We can't create it on our own. And also branded business cards. So a lot of this may be more the VPPR, but it doesn't hurt. Maybe the PR doesn't even know about this. Maybe the PR doesn't even know what resources are here at this point in time. So you as secretary may become the hub of information dissemination. You may be able to help your club figure out how deep the resources are on Toastmasters International. Okay. So Nirmala, were there any specific questions that were typed in after the chat that we haven't addressed?
Yes, there's a question. How long must meeting minutes be kept? I think it's the record retention.
So
if there is a
remember, you're going to go for that information. You're going to go into Leadership Central. You're going to go into Club Officer Tools. You're going to go into the Club Officer Kit. You're going to go into the Club Leadership Handbook. And this is, this information, there's many ways to get to it. It's like you go to the store from your house on certain streets. And if you're coming from work, you're not going to go back home and then go those same streets. So there's many ways to find it, but I'm trying to kind of show the same way over and over again so that you have a sense of it. And then in your club leadership handbook, you're down at page 34. What page is that? And right here, it's going to tell you charters and rosters, meeting minutes and records, attendance records, always. Were there any other questions? And now that we're virtual, now that everything is kind of electronic, this is a little more practical. When it was paper, that was a big ask. But that's another possible benefit of the pandemic. Were there any other questions that we haven't addressed yet, Nirmala?
Nothing in the chat, but Whoever has questions, please feel free to speak.
Good. Feel free to put them in. Okay, so then we can look at some things that are not so specific to the secretary. There's another path to the brand portal, but there's also podcasts here, speaking tips. There's so much information here that you can bring to your club. Just click on one. Accepting awards, delivering eulogies, introducing speakers, preparing a speech. So this can be a resource not only for you, but as secretary, you can maybe put together a little sheet that shows your members where they can go to get a little bit more information and support. Remember, every resource that you're given, not only from this seminar, but whatever you're given from the previous secretary, your club, take those resources, improve upon them with your experience, and then have as an intention to make that handoff just a strong one, right in the palm. Like you are going to give your successor the most complete set of resources and a little tutorial before they start so that they are hitting the ground running. Like when you do a relay, you don't stand there, take the baton and start running. You're kind of on this slow running start. So as a suggestion, maybe your club chooses to have their elections a month or two before the actual shift, the actual changing of the guard, so that those new officers can come to a couple board meetings. Make sure that you have as an intention to sit down with that new member and invite them to that board meeting so that they can see the track. They can see where it is that this previous board has gone and what it is they're doing. And they can take that baton and go from there, not start over again, not start from a dead standstill.
We have a couple more minutes. There are a few more questions.
Awesome.
Are the meeting minutes kept on the website?
So with our club, John, why don't you answer how you're keeping our meeting minutes? John Mortensen, are you available?
Yes, I am. We don't keep ours on our website. We keep them with our Teams portion, our Teams channel, where you can get to from OneNote. I'm sure that it would be quite capable to put them on a website for a team or a club that's really good at using a website. As a secretary, I have no clue how to upload anything to a website, so I couldn't help with that. But I could see that as something that a club could use, but we don't use it for the minutes.
Thanks, John. One more question. Any suggestions on how to store files electronically for community clubs?
We use Teams, as John said, and that's something that we've just implemented in the last year or two. And one of the reasons why is because we can put all our files on there. So we can have files that are specific to just the board, things that we're working on. And then we have files that are specific, that are for the general membership. And that way it's really easy to pass that stuff on. It's always there, it's always accessible. But again, if you're in a different environment, if you're not using Microsoft, maybe you're using more Google. There's Google Keep. I don't know a lot about those, but you'll want to look at the environment that your club is working with now in this virtual time. And then usually there'll be some source there. There'll be some application that you can use to store your files on it. And that way you can really organize very well. There's, meeting minutes, and there's wiki for the club, frequently asked questions, and you can really put those files very clear so that club members can easily access them. And we're always wanting to point people to resources that they can then take and run with, instead of having to spoon feed and teach everything. We just want to teach where are the resources and then have the people go and find the information for themselves.
Nice. It looks like we are out of time for Q&A.
Okay.
right? So should we move on?
Yes. Well,
So we can, we have few more minutes. We would like everybody to stay and complete a survey. I'm going to post the survey link in the chat. If you can click on this link and fill out the survey, we'd really appreciate it. But while filling out the survey, do we want to address any more questions? Or should we just keep it quiet?
yes. Let's see if there's one more question, and then I will just kind of do a wrap up, and then we can turn it over to Tina and Linda.
There was a question. Do you read the meeting minutes every week?
So that's going to be a club culture, whether or not you keep regular meeting minutes and whether or not you read those to the club or send them out ahead of time and ask for corrections and additions. Our particular club does not keep regular meeting minutes. We keep only board meeting minutes. And again, those, as a secretary, send those out ahead of time so that either the board or the membership has an opportunity to read it and to send you any corrections so that you can put those in before you file them. It's totally up to club culture if they're sent out electronically ahead of time, and if the feedback is electronically, or if it's something that's actually read in the club meeting. Okay, with that, I want to show one more thing. Under events, there are webinars. This isn't specific to your role, but I'm trying to find just one or two things that some of our well-seasoned members may not know, and they probably know this as well. But I was thrilled to find that there are webinars in here, and not only resilience in times of uncertainty, but there are there's a whole series on humor workshops. There's communicating across cultures, which of course is exceedingly important for us, and interview success. So I'm hoping that you will all take the time after this seminar. You'll be sent out a PDF, which is just a very shorthand version of some of what we've gone through today. And then you'll also be sent out a resource page for OneNote if you want to implement OneNote. Take the time, put it on your calendar, put down 15 minutes next week that you're going to go through what you saw here today. And you're going to start to deepen your knowledge into this resource that you have, because it's so deep. It's layers upon layers of wonderful information. And so that's my challenge to you. Put it on your calendar so you actually do it. Peruse the protocol and all of those scary things so that you just have a sense of what's there. And then when your club has a serious question or problem, you're going to be the one that gives them resources that makes it not so scary, and you guys will just come out of it stronger. So with that, thank you so much for dedicating the time. Thank you so much for saying yes to your club and serving. And I'm going to turn it back over to our wonderful Nirmala. Thank you so much.
That was an excellent presentation, Barb. Thank you so much for being a facilitator today. With that, I would like to request our district program quality director, Tina Tate. Do you have any announcements for today?
I do. Thank you so much, Nirmala. First, let's give another round of applause to Barb for a fantastic training. Thank you so much, Barb. I know everybody, there was some great comments in the chat about it being a great presentation. So thank you so much. And thank you, Nirmala, for your good work on making this happen. We have a couple of exciting things coming up. So mark your calendars, go back and tell your clubs. We have the Leaders Breakfast on February 5th, starting at 9 a.m. And we have a great lineup of speakers. We are going to have Lance Miller, who is the 2005 World Champion of Public Speaking. We will have Liam and Tangelo talking about the history, some history and leadership. He always has a great presentation. And I'm proud to say we will have Roddy Spear, our second vice president, will be there to give a presentation on leadership. So please, please, please join us for that. Your club officers will get club officer training credit for attending, but it's not just for officers, it's for all Toastmasters. So tell everybody. And then we have our conference. We have our conference in May. It kicks off on May 14th with our business meeting, and then we'll have some educational sessions that week. The keynote speakers will happen on May 21st, and we'll have our contest on May 22nd. I am proud to announce that we have our reigning world champion of public speaking, Verity Price, will be joining us. So you don't want to miss that. Spread the word. It's going to be fabulous. Also, one other thing, if we have a lot of people from another district here, and I do have your district numbers, but if you'll send an email to your program quality director in your district and include me, which I'll put in my chat in that email, then I can just reply and say, yes, you were here and give you credit. That will expedite things for you. So there's my email address, so you can do that. Linda, do you have any announcements?
I do. Thank you. We have club incentives. We just love helping the clubs financially. And we just announced these incentives. We've got the marketing video, which is brand new in District 2. We just want you to create a video and market your club. And then we're going to give you $50 D2 to help with your club expenses. And then also we have the usual in February and March. You can have the beat the clock, the usual incentive, and new member incentive. Every member that you add to your club, we're going to give you $10. And we also have the open house incentive. And so if you have an open house and that's in February or March, and then you let us know, we'll also give you $50 plus. I'm super excited that in District 2, we're going to have 3 meetings starting on March 16th. Pat Johnson, past international president of Toastmasters, wrote a book about corporations, and we're calling our little book club, our little 3-week book club, we're calling it Creating Corporate Clubs Chat. And we're going to talk about what's it like to talk to a corporate club as opposed to a community club, because the languaging and the thoughts about it are completely different than a community club. So I'm hoping that you'll sign up for that, and it's on District 2 website. Back to you, Nirmala.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much for being here for the announcements. Those are great incentives. And very special thanks to Barb, to John, for coming for this excellent presentation. You put a lot of work into this. It's excellent material. I've learned a lot today, and I hope all of you have learned. We are extremely pleased that you could join us. The recording will be available. So as the materials that were posted here, if you would like to be emailed, I will be sending you an email. So do reach out if you still have any questions. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, a great weekend.